Joining me now, Georgette, Mosbacher, Steve Rogers, Morgan Ortagus, and Charlie Kirk. Hey, let me go to you, Morgan, first on this. Isn't there a lot of people saying some of these folks dropping out are making overtures to Donald Trump, whether it's Mike Huckabee and going to that debate after the debate, if you remember that. Certainly Chris Christie at the diner yesterday with Donald Trump, and then the long phone call after the loss last night. Maybe people saying Ben Carson would make a good Surgeon General. Even he admitted to Neil Cavuto that he would listen if offered. What do you think?
Well, I think this is something that's certainly natural to happen at this part of the race. But these candidates who are dropping it out are not only talking to Trump, they're all talking to each other. They're trying to figure out where the horse race is going. If you look today, the New York Times is already reporting that Woody Johnson, who heads Jeb Bush's financial part of his campaign, has reached out to Christie's donors in New York. Christie had very big pockets of donors in New York. So there will be a big race between Bush, Rubio, and Kasich to try to get the donors from him, from Huckabee. So this is all natural part of the race.
You do fundraising for Bush, right?
I do, yes.
Okay. Have you guys reached out to any of these people? Do you know what Bush's campaign has?
As I said, yes, Woody Johnson, who heads the fundraising apparatus for the Bush campaign.
Okay, I thought he was with Christie. I didn't know he was with Bush.
No, he's with Bush. That was actually a big contention early on in the race because he chose Bush over Christie. So he is one of the most prominent businessmen in New York, reaching out to all of the big Christie donors. So this is a lot of the behind the scenes, what you're going to see going on. While some people may have reached out to Trump, no one has endorsed him yet. So I think when it comes to, clearly Trump has won a primary, Cruz has won a primary. So Kasich, Rubio, Bush will be battling in South Carolina, saying, make me that third alternative.
Hey, Steve, what do you make of the notion now that the establishment lane, right before New Hampshire, let's say before that debate, it felt like Rubio was emerging to be a really strong contender in the establishment lane, particularly with Cruz and Trump beating each other up. And now it feels like there's no viable candidate there.
A couple of points I'd like to make. One, Donald Trump has gotten an endorsement. That endorsement is from the American people, and it's begun in New Hampshire. Number two, the establishment-linked candidates, they were going nowhere when the gate opened up. And that's something, Charles, that the RNC could never buy. They could never figure it out.
So even though last night in New Hampshire, 49% of the voters said they wanted an establishment candidate, and if you were to add up all the establishment numbers, they were actually much more than Donald Trump. So, I mean, can we totally say that that lane was dead before last night, or that you feel more confident right now that it's done?
I feel very, very confident that the people in that lane are going to go to Donald Trump. I've said from the beginning, he's going to be the next president of the United States. There's a movement going on across this country. I see it. I'm sure a lot of Americans see it, but the RNC's yet to see it. And when they do, Donald Trump is going to the White House.
What do you think, Georgette?
Well, I think that's an interesting prediction, but I think there's a long road from New Hampshire to the White House. And I think
we can't do the swearing-in ceremony tomorrow?
No, not only
Come on, let's do it, George.
But actually, I think if you look at this and what has just happened in the last week, I mean, Rubio was the darling coming out of Ohio, and then Christie knocked him down. Maybe didn't knock him out. I don't know if this is his Rick Perry moment or not, but I do know one thing, and that Bush needs to knock him out. Bush is going to go after him right now. He's got to get Rubio out of the way if Bush really wants to truly resurrect himself.
Right. Well, let me ask you, Charlie, and we're talking about Rubio coming out of Iowa with all that momentum. Even though he came in third, the narrative was he did so much better. He gave a great press conference. But then it was his inability to speak on his feet, that one of his great claims to fame. Even, I got to tell you, even when he admitted that he made a mistake last night, he kept glancing down at his notes, and I found that disturbing.
Yeah, me too. And it's interesting. Rubio probably played Iowa better than any other politician that we've seen in the last 20 years. He comes in third, but he acted like he won, and the media went along with it. And then he comes in New Hampshire with all this momentum and undecideds going his way. And unfortunately, he did not have a very good debate. I mean, he came and he kind of played in this narrative that he was scripted and robotic, and Kasich pounced on it. You saw a lot of the late undecideds going to Trump and to Kasich, and Marco Rubio has a lot of work to do coming into South Carolina. Bush has a lot more money than Marco Rubio does. Bush is kind of doing the Marco Rubio Iowa thing where he's pretending like he won even though he came in fourth. But Bush was going to have his brother stumping out in South Carolina, and I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a do-or-die moment right now for the Rubio campaign because they will now have come in third in Iowa and fifth in New Hampshire. And what are they supposed to say after South Carolina if they don't have the top 3 finish? It's going to be a do-or-die moment for the Rubio campaign.
Feels like a do-or-die moment, I got to tell you, for Rubio and your man Bush. I mean, listen, I know he's got all his cash, all his organization, but if he can't break the top 3 in the first 3 contests, doesn't he realize sticking around only makes it worse for makes his worst dream probably come true?
I would say that you could have that argument for both Rubio and Kasich as well. I mean, I think it's misdirected to only say that to Bush, especially whenever he.
Well, I was saying Bush and Rubio. Yeah. Although you can't throw Kasich in there, and I got to tell you, listen, I don't put Kasich on the same level, in part because of the cash and the footprint. He
has the least amount of cash of anybody who's left, and he's polling under 2% in South Carolina.
Kasich went into New Hampshire as a tactic, not as a strategy.
Right.
And the tactic worked.
It worked well.
Where does he go now?
I disagree. We brought this up earlier today when you and I were talking. I disagree that the strategy worked. I think everyone in the media is saying Kasich went all in and it worked.
No,
he's double-digit loss.
But
it was a double-digit loss in New Hampshire. I don't think that's a win.
But Charles,
I don't think it gets him any momentum.
I think for the good of the country, and we've said this before, those who are falling under a certain percentage, bail out. You know, and God bless all of them. I mean, my hat's off to all of them. It's a tough job to do. But for the good of the United States of America, start to think about
well, then that brings us maybe to something of an elephant in the room with Dr. Ben Carson. And listen, I know he should do better in South Carolina because of evangelicals and more conservative voters, but is he really at this point kind of spinning his wheels? I mean, is the greater part of valor to say, hey, I'm going to step out and support the ultimate nominee?
Yes, absolutely, but that's not the way politics works. And we don't know ultimately what he wants. He may want to be on the ticket. So he may want to play this out.
But politics hasn't worked this way forever with Donald Trump in the race. It's a great difference.
But we still have a long way to go. I repeat that. And we've seen how things can change so quickly. Rubio, now Kasich wins this, and now Bush all of a sudden. Look, a week ago, I heard people saying this was the beginning of the end of Trump. After Iowa. Right. Well, Trump, this was a big win.
I am going to invite you to Donald Trump swearing in.
That's going to be a crowded thing. You got a million invites?